If you have trouble to play Vanguard in these strange times because your local game shop is closed or you have no way to participate at the Bushiroad Remote Fight Discord channel, then don't worry, because Bushiroad got your back as they introduce a brand new way to play Vanguard. This is Character Fights. Stand up! Vanguard! Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another video, and today we've got a very interesting video as last weekend Bushiroad announced a brand new way to play Vanguard if you have no access to an online version of Vanguard to play it on the Discord channel with a good stable connection or camera, or your local game shop is closed. Then for those situations, Bushiroad introduces the new Character Fight game mode. And what this is basically a single player campaign or a single player game mode that allows us to play Vanguard to some extent in our own home and against an NPC or a computer. And this is somewhat similar to raid battles or boss battles that we've seen in other card games like World of Warcraft, the TCG that introduced that, and other digital card games that allow for some single player campaigns where you play up against an NPC. This is basically the same that we play up against a computer that has a subset of rules and interactions that will activate and react to what you're doing and to a certain dice rolls, as dice rolls will determine what happens during the match if certain attack hits or certain attacks don't hit and if certain events happen. So this is a very interesting new way to play Vanguard, and especially during these times this is a very warm welcome addition to the whole plethora of game modes, as now whatever the situation is or whatever situation you might find yourself, you can play Vanguard and enjoy the game as it should be enjoyed. So in this video, I'm going to showcase to you how this is played and how you can do this in your own living room. And then I will also showcase a gameplay that I try to beat this challenge. And then afterwards, we'll discuss about some nice interactions between this specific character fight and how you could handle it or approach it so you have the best success of beating it, and might even have some nice challenging to make it even harder for yourself. So the first character fight they introduced to us is the challenge Ibuki with Greion, and it's the character fight Ibuki and Greion level 1. So we're up against Link Joker, which is a force class, and so meaning every time our opponent or Ibuki is on grade 3 or rides a grade 3, he will gain additional force markers. So keep that in mind when you're facing up against this, as he will be bigger and bigger and bigger every single turn. And his ride chain is fixed, so on turn 1 he will ride up to an 8k, on turn 2 he will ride up to his grade 2 10k, and on turn 3 he will ride up to grade 3 13k, which is Greion's, and the next turn he will basically keep rewriting Greion's, so he will acquire an additional force marker every single turn. And also whenever he takes damage, he will always gain an additional 10k power. So keep that in mind if you're going for a multi-tech strategy, as every time that you hit, you will need to deal an additional extra 10k power onto a unit to be able to hit it again. And when Ibuki attacks, you will roll a dice every single time to see what type of result it will apply on that attack. And we'll go into those results in a second, so we have a better understanding of what will happen. Also, he will attack multiple times to the same number of your grade. So if you're grade 1, he will attack once. If you're grade 2, he will attack twice. And if you are grade 3, he will attack thrice. So keep that in mind if you ride up that you're gonna be dealt even more multiple attacks, and that is very devastating, as we're gonna see in a second. So let's take a look at the turn solution, how it's basically played. Basically a normal game of Vanguard with all the phases exactly the same. The only difference here is for us as the attacking player is that when we declare an attack, we attack with our unit or our Vanguard, then we roll a dice, and depending on the power difference, we need to roll a certain number so we're able to hit. So if we attack with a 13k attack against his 13k base power, that means the power difference is 5k or less. So if we take a look at the table, we need to roll a 1 or a 3. If we attack with a high enough power number that is between 6k or 24k higher, we need to roll a 1, a 3, or a 5 that hits. Then, if we attack with a column that's 25k higher than his base power or his power with the additional damage trigger that he got, then you need to roll a 1, a 3, a 4, a 5 to hit. So, the higher the power, the more chances you have that you're going to actually hit with your unit. This basically simulates that he's going to guard or not. And this will be done before you drive check. So if you attack with your Vanguard, you will roll the dice first, then determine if it will hit, and then you're going to do your drive check. So the power you will gain afterwards, there's no use to stack it onto your Vanguard, as it's already been calculated it will be hit or not hit. And don't forget, every time you hit, his power will increase with an additional 10k, so meaning it will be harder to hit him again as your rolls will be decreasing with the chances of you actually hitting him. And that's basically how we play our turn. You build up your field, you try to build high enough columns, you attack, you roll the dice, see if you actually hit or not, and then you end your turn. If you dealt him a damage, he will gain additional 10k power, so it will be harder to hit him. Now if we take a look at the character himself, how his turn will play out, it's basically still the same. Every turn he will ride up, then if he rides up to grid 3, he will gain an additional force marker, and every subsequent turn after that, he will gain an additional force marker. So we will get powerful every single turn. Then for his attack, it's a little bit different, as he's gonna attack, and you first need to guard. So you need to declare how much you're gonna guard with from your hand, and then after you make your guards, he's gonna roll a dice. And depending on the outcome of the roll, certain things will happen. If you roll 1, he will bind the front row right rear guard unit face down, and then he will gain an additional 10k power for the end of the turn. So every single attack afterwards will have also that increase of 10k. So it's similar to that he drive check the trigger. Then if you roll a 2, then the same thing happens, but only this time he will bind the front row left unit. Then if he rolls a 3, it's just an attack. It won't do anything, it won't get an additional power, so it's just a single attack. Then if you roll a 4, he will gain an additional 10k and an additional crit. So this is very dangerous if this is the first attack and he's gonna attack another 2 times afterwards. So this could be very deadly. Then if he rolls a 5, you need to choose a back row unit and bind it face down, but he will also gain an additional 20k power. So this is the biggest power buff he can gain through an attack. And then the last thing, if you roll a 6, he will delete your Vanguard on attack. This deletes your Vanguard, very obviously, but also if this was the second or third attack and you had a defensive trigger, those defensive power will also be removed. So you will back to 0. So this could be very powerful if it's the last attack and you just hit 2 defensive triggers. And also keep in mind, he can delete your Vanguard even if he's grade 1 or grade 2 if you just happens to roll a 6, but this will be less detrimental as you will probably ride up to your following grade. So this is basically the rundown of its played. It's basically a normal type of Vanguard match, but only now you will roll dice before you declare an attack or when he's going to attack after you guard it, and determining on these dice outputs, it's basically showcase what will happen. It's very easy to follow if you just use this sheet, and every time that you want to do a move, look at the table, see what you need to do, see what happens, and after a couple of times that you try it out, you will basically remember it, and it becomes very easy to apply it. I will leave a link in the description down below to this table. It was translated by Can You Say G and Kai of WCC. I probably link to Kai's Twitter message where he basically posted this image so you can download it to your computer and basically print it out and basically use it to your leisure. So without further ado, we're gonna jump straight into a showcase of me trying to beat this Ibuki character fight, and let's see if I succeed or not. Alright, so now it's my time to try and challenge and beat Ibuki with his Greions on level 1. So in old-fashioned Mr. Timely fashion, we're gonna play, of course, with Gear Chronicle. But I'm not gonna use the brand new Chronofang Tiger build, as I don't think that build will be effective in this solo play game mode, as we, for one, have no rearguards to retire, so we gain no advantage from that. And we also gain no advantage of guard restriction, or in Vang's case, get advantage of reducing the opponent's shield value. So a lot of the value from Fang is negated. The only effect that we get is the potential extra drives, but that could be used in 8 build, and the criticals and some bit of the power, but all those advantage could also be attained in our old trusted Lost Legends Mystery Flare build, so we went with this, as this could give more power and potentially cheat out the extra turn. Of course, we upgraded this build with the latest Renovate Winged Dragon to really bring out the turbo game for the binding. And lastly, we topped it off with the new staples for Gear Chronicle, one of the most expensive cards right now, with Steam Scour Ear Cup and Chrono 2 Fatigue R. So this is the build that we're going to run. It's very similar to the old version, only upgraded with the new cards. And let's see if this will allow us to come victorious out of this game mode. For the field setup, I'm going to put the damage for Ibuki on the top here. My bind zone is going to be on the bottom here, so you have a better view of the amounts of grades that I have. Damage zone here, deck, drop zone, and the rest is basically as per usual. Also for the dice that I'm going to use, it's not really that important, but I'm going to use the Bushiroad dice that we got from the event, I believe, Autumn Fest, or it was even Spring Fest last year. Really nice that they gave us those pretty awesome dice. It's very funny that the 6 is a crit, which is the most destructive of the rolls that you could get, as it could delete your Vanguard. And in this case, deleting my Vanguard could be very detrimental, as if I cannot rewrite another Lost Legend, I'm basically stuck for the entire turn. So yeah, let's hope this goes well. So let's see what our opening hand is, and for this game mode we always go first. Alright, so we have grade 1s, but that's about it. We have nothing else, so I'm gonna keep one and the rest all goes to the bottom. Let's hope I manage to get... no. Alright, the grade 2, another grade 2, another grade 1. So no Lost Legend. So that could be very painful, but at least I can draw some cards, and I have at least a Stride Fodder also, so it could save us in the long run. I have time to draw a card. Turn 1, we draw. Right, that's a grade 4, so another potential discard fodder, and I will go one Wacky Wacky Worker or Quickie Quickie Worker, draw for turn, or at least draw for draw phase, skill, and yeah, that's basically everything for this turn. Now we go to Ibuki's turn, so he writes up to his grade 1 8k, and he's gonna roll the dice. So we're gonna, or at least he's gonna attack. So he's attacking with 8k, and I need to determine if I want to guard against it. So most of its attack will gain an additional 10k, 3 of its 6 roll. One of its rolls will gain nothing, so that means he won't get a trigger. Deleting the Vanguard will also go minus 8k, so it doesn't really mean a lot more power. Only if he rolls a 5, then you need to guard a lot. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna be a very late gameplay. I'm gonna set up for things. I'm gonna PG this, because it will block the attack. I'm gonna discard my Mystery Flare. So the attack will be negated, so hopefully he rolls a 5, so it is really good. Oh, and he rolls a 5, so yeah, that's perfect, because I wanted to guard with a 15k. If he rolled a 5, that basically went through the 15k, as he gains a 20k, and he binds a back row. But because I have nothing, it's nothing, and because I have a PG, it will do 0 damage. So yeah, made the correct play there. Now I'm gonna draw for turn, and get another critical, so still no grade 3, so that might be a problem here, but let's see how things will go. I will ride up to Naboo, and I will call another Naboo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack immediately with my Naboo, and I will bind the Mystery Flare, so I already have 4 grades ready here. And because this is 10 against 8, so it's 5 or lower, so I need to roll a 1 or a 3 to hit. And that's a 1, so it hits. So he will get 1 damage. And now his Vanguard will be 18. Meaning this one will not hit on its own. But this is an interesting thing now, because I think I need to roll 1 and a 3 anyways, and then still need to hit a trigger to be able to hit against it. So let's see if my luck is... oh wait, I forgot one thing. This one goes to the soul, and I draw a card. And there's a grade 3, so that's a good thing. So I need to roll 1 or a 3 and then hit a trigger to be able to hit against this Vanguard. So that's a 6, so that means it won't hit, but I still have my drive check. And that's another grade 3. So I can at least ride up, but I have no Lost Legend. So let's see how things will proceed from here. So now he will ride up to grade 2, and that's a 10k. So it's 10k against his 10k, and he will proceed to attack. Now in this scenario, I will guard the first attack and then take the second one, because he's going to attack twice now. So I will guard with 15k. So that means if he hits a 5, he will break through. Otherwise, it's a guard against it. And he will break through. Again, he rolls another 5. So this won't go away. And oh, at least damage trigger, and I get a draw. So that's at least that. And his Vanguard is now plus 20 for the entirety of the turn. So it's now 30k, and he attacks again. Well, that basically... I have to say no guard to this, so let's hope that he doesn't get a crit. That's a 2, so he gains another 10k and binds another unit on the right on the front row right left column, but I have nothing here, so that means nothing. So that's just the damage and another wedge move. All right. Let's see if I can get into my last legend. Oh, dead like a lad. That's what... Alright, top decking is going here. Top deck heroes, I'm coming for your name. That's for sure. Let's see. Now I want to bind as many cards as possible. Can I do something about it? I can... So I will do this. And this, then I will activate it. I will Soul Blast, bind these two, then check the top 3, and I will do it like this. So then I will try it for turn. Sword Shot, Mystery Flare. Use Lot Legend skill. Counter Blast. Draw a card. Alright, at least set up for next turn. Then he will gain an additional crit and an additional drive check. So that's at least it. Also, I must not forget my marker. I will put the marker on the rear guard because that will mean more offensive plays. So this is 15 against his 10. So there's a 5k power difference. So I need a 1 or a 3. Let's hope it hits because it has a critical. It hits. So at least he will get 2 damage, but I also have still my triple drive. So it could be more. So first check, nothing. Second check, nothing. Third check, heal. He's at 1. So I will heal. This is very nice. Wait, do I want to... doesn't really matter, but okay. I will put the power onto my Quickie worker. So that's another 10. And he will gain 2 damage. So he will get an additional 20k. So he's now at 30. But this is 28, 33. So it can still hit if I roll a 1 or a 3. So let's see if my luck is still with me. That's out of the screen, but that was a 2. So it doesn't hit. So that's the end of my turn. Straight out, and I will put it here. So that was my turn. So now it goes back to his turn, and he rides up the grade 3, meaning he will now attack 3 times, as I'm also grade 3. So that's it's 13k against my 30k, and he attacks for the first time. So first attack. Probably need to guard this. So let's do let's do that. I will guard with 15k. So no delete, so no 5 or no 6, and I'm Gucci. And he hits a 5. Why does he keep rolling? Why do I keep rolling 5s? Oh, so it hits. And it's a back row unit that's gonna be bound. So this is gonna be bound face down. And I will take a damage. Then he's plus 20 for the rest of the turn. So he's now 33. Yeah, I'm gonna need to take the other 2 attacks because this ain't gonna work. So take it. That's a 6. So he deletes my Vanguard. That's really bad because of Mystery Flare. Because Lost Legend lost his skill now. And I will take another damage. And there goes another Lost Legend. That's not good. And his final attack. That's a 3. It's just a normal attack, so I take a normal damage. And there goes Ear Cup. Alright, so back to me. Let's see if I can somehow pull it back. Probably can't. Because now that I lost Lost Legend skill, I need to rewrite another Lost Legend to be able to do at least something. I have 7. At least I need to do this. So I'll rewrite. Get another force on the Vanguard, yes. Then I'm gonna strike with these 2 because this allows me to the very least activate Chrono Guard to get some more value on the board. So first off, Chrono Guard. Call it in rest here and draw a card. Then Lost Legend skill. Draw another card. That's not ideal. Only triggers in hand. So 13. I am 35. So he can go to 25. I will do this first. 18 against his 13. So that's a 5k difference. So I need a 1 or a 3 to hit. It's hit. So at least my dice rolls are also so on point. So he goes to 23 now. So now I'm going to attack with this. This 35. This is a 12k difference. So I need to run a 3 or a 5 to hit. And it has a critical and triple drive. It's a 1, so it hits. Okay. So basically, this means critical. So that's 3 damage. So he needs to go to 7. So even if he healed, it's basically GG. Sadly, no turn. But we came out victorious. It was a very awkward match because, yeah, you can see it on the field. My binding was a bit awkward. My hand was very awkward with all the triggers, but managed to squeeze it out. Sadly, couldn't use Ear Cup this game, but it's a W. It's a W I take, and it was only level 1, so I'm very certain that we're gonna see a more tougher version of this very, very soon. At least that's I hope. But I'm gonna give it back to me from the past, so you guys can hear all more about the potential of this game and all the intricate interactions between it. So yeah, it's a fun thing, and definitely give it a try. It's a really fun thing to do right now in this strangest of times. And that's basically a showcase of the character fight. I want to address one small detail. You might have catched on upon that during the showcase itself. I forgot to add a force marker on the Vanguard for when Ibuki rated up to grade 3. Did it make a difference? No, because I guarded and he basically broke through my guard anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I still got all the damage, so it wouldn't have changed anything. But don't forget, he doesn't go up to 13k if he goes to his first grade 3. He immediately becomes 23 as he attain an additional force marker. So don't forget that aspect. Now for the game mode itself, as you might have seen with my explanation during what type of deck I was going to play, there are certain things you need to keep in mind, that certain decks or certain strategies will be useful and some will not. Decks that focus on controlling your opponent's field, like Kagero Narukami and even Link Joker to some extent, are less effective because this character fight will have no rear guards. It won't have any units on the field, so those effects will basically mean nothing. Same as with all types of guard restrict. Guard restrict doesn't mean anything during this character fight as he doesn't really guard from hand, as it's just all depending on the dice roll. So something like Chrono Tiger Rebellion with his shield reduction doesn't really do anything. Something like a Waterfall with Sentinel Restrict doesn't really do anything. Glory Maelstrom that prohibits the amount of guards you can use in intercepting also won't do anything. And speaking of Glory Maelstrom, and we transition into Axel, multi-tech strategies are also less effective against this character fight, as every single damage will allow him to hit a trigger, so probably 1 or 2 attacks will hit and then everything afterwards won't. The upside, however, with Axel to some extent is if your dice rolls in the first couple of attacks are terrible and you keep missing, because you have multiple attacks ready, you have multiple dice rolls to at least get a hit in. So there are some ways that this is effective, but not other ways not. If you're very lucky with your dice roll early on, then you won't get any value out of your Axel circles. If you're very unlucky with your dice rolls, then you could actually get value out of your multi-attacks. What is very useful to bring to this character fight are basically either very defensive decks that can get multiple protect markers to hand or multiple PGs, so you could stall out for the long game, or decks that can just build massive columns out of nowhere and or can acquire a lot of crits. Chrono Fang Tiger could do this with multiple crits on all those discard cards that we have, and with Fang and with Chrono Bite Tiger. You could also look at Melody, as they can build massive numbers and can utilize Force 2 to some extent. You could also look at Himiko with multiple crits that you can swing in with 4 crits, and if you're lucky that you hit the dice roll, you could basically win the game right then and there. Also, things like Valkyrian could be useful as you swinging with a massive number, so that attack would have the highest chance to actually hit. And there are a couple of other strategies that might actually work in this favor. Also, another interesting thing that came to light during the showcase is that when you attack with a Vanguard and the attack is actually too low to hit, you still roll a dice. And if you look at the table, you have, if the power difference is 5k or lower, you will roll a 1 or a 3. But if you roll correctly, what didn't happen during the match, as I didn't roll the correct number, it should hit. But because you are too low to actually hit over the base power, it shouldn't be hit. So basically in that scenario, you should say to yourself, alright, I hit the attack, so he's not guarding, but I still need to hit a trigger to actually hit over its defensive trigger. These are basically homebrew rules, as it's not really in this subset of rules for this character fight, but as soon as it's solo player campaign and there's no actual rules or judges or whatever, you can change the rules up to a bit or make them more applicable to your current situation to actually make sense. In my situation, and what I would say is, you will roll the dice and the dice determine if your opponent is guarding or not. And then you also need to look at the base power, because if he's not guarding, but you're still are too low to hit, then the attack shouldn't hit. Personally, I'm very happy that they're trying to introduce these kinds of stuff. It allows us to play Vanguard in multiple different ways. And I'm also curious if they're gonna do actual multiple versions, as this is called Cardfight Ibuki and Greion level 1. Will there be a level 2 or a level 3, maybe a level 4? Will there be other characters? But that's basically for this showcase for the character fight. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this new way of playing Vanguard, this single player campaign. Do you want to see more of these character fights? Do you want to see multiple versions? And do you guys want me to keep showcasing them if we are seeing multiple versions of this? It's a very fun, interesting way to showcase and play Vanguard in a different way. And if you guys enjoyed it, then I definitely want to do more of these type of videos to showcase these character fights and probably use different decks as well, as not only Gear Chronicle. So let me know all your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/VanguardInsider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, then head over to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Timely, and I'll see you guys in the next one!